And joining me now for an exclusive interview is Polish Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski. Thank you for your time.
Pleasure.
It's wet, it's rainy out here, but did you breathe a sigh of relief when you saw Marco Rubio instead of JD Vance?
Certainly the style was an improvement. The message was still hard-headed, and I didn't agree with everything. And I was surprised that there wasn't, at a security conference, there wasn't any reference to the biggest war in Europe in over half a century. But I saw Marco Rubio on a bilateral basis, and I obviously talked to him about that. I also talked to the Sakyo, who happens to be also the US EUCOM commander, General Grunkiewicz, and we had a fruitful E5 meeting, Germany, UK, France, Italy and Poland.
So is there a sense when you speak to Secretary Rubio that Ukraine is a priority, even if he didn't mention it here?
I'm not sure. I think the US is pivoting in the security sphere to the Far East. I think the US preference is for the war to end, whereas our preference is for it to end the right way.
Marco Rubio repeated the word friend, ally. He said, quote, "The US will always be a child of Europe." Was he kind of playing good cop, JD Vance last year, bad cop?
Well, historically speaking, that's an indisputable fact. But as politicians, we have to look and plan for the future. And it's clear that we are going to have a different kind of NATO in future. And we are waiting for the US proposal for the new division of labor. And then we can start planning for that. And then maybe this amazingly successful alliance can last another few decades.
Do you think it will be amazingly successful in the future?
I think it can be. We are now much richer than Europe was in the 50s. We should be able to deter Putin on our own with some American enablers.
When it comes to the war in Ukraine, Marco Rubio did talk about the United Nations not solving Russia's invasion, that America was the one to get Russia and Ukraine to the table. I'm curious, do you see the United Nations as still fit for purpose?
It's a tough one because there are many things wrong with the UN, including the composition of the Security Council. But the reason it can't solve the Russia-Ukraine problem is because one of the permanent members is the perpetrator, is the aggressor. And if you put the aggressor in another format, say the Board of Peace, it's still the aggressor, and it's still a spoiler, and it's still not willing to withdraw from Ukraine.
Why do you think Russia has been invited to the Board of Peace? We spoke at the OSCE meeting where you talked about wanting to expel Russia from the OSCE, also from the UN Security Council. I mean, the Board of Peace, if you want to create something differently, that would seem like a logical place to do it.
I think this is a really good question, but I think to the proposer of the Board of Peace.
So to President Trump. We heard President Zelensky speak, telling us that America focuses too much on Ukrainian concessions, not Russian concessions. I'm interested in your perspective on Poland and Europe being at the table when it comes to these peace negotiations, because how damaging is it for Europe not to be there?
Well, I think the fact that the US leads the process is a legacy of a very active role that the United States had in the first 3 years of the war. A congressional package of $60 billion for arms and deterrence of Russia from using nuclear weapons. But as of last year, the spending is close to zero. And it's always been much more important for Europe. Poland borders on both Russia and Ukraine. And so the stakes for Europe are much higher. We are paying for it. So we should be at the decision-making table. And if this war if a bad solution is imposed on Ukraine, then I think we should stick to supporting Ukraine if she wants to continue.
So to be crystal clear, what do you want to see when it comes to these negotiations about Europe being at the table?
I want Ukraine to have the confidence to to negotiate from a position of some strength, of not being forced into a semi-capitulation.
When we talk about the coalition of the willing, and specifically European defence, there's been much talk about nuclear deterrence. We heard it from Friedrich Merz, we heard it from Emmanuel Macron. What are we actually talking about? Expanding the French umbrella? Are we talking about member states procuring together?
I think nuclear issues are best discussed behind closed doors and preferably at the nuclear planning group at NATO.
So you see nuclear and nukes, and whether or not nukes would be in Poland or not as a deterrent to Russia, I mean, that is something that needs to stay in confidence.
I don't think you're authorized to discuss these issues. They come with very high levels of secrecy.
Maybe one day, Minister. I do want to end with this view of the world order and the changing of the world order. Is it good news or is it bad news for Poland?
Sorry, I don't quite get you.
When we talk about the current world order not existing anymore, as it stands, Friedrich Merz, is it good news or bad news for Poland?
We have had the best economic growth and also the best civilizational kind of rebound for the last 35 years in our 1,000-year history. So we rather enjoyed the world of strong transatlanticism, globalization, and Western security guarantees. So, as a medium-sized power, we are not looking forward to the law of the jungle and dog eat dog. No, we shall be defending the rules-based order and international law for as long as possible.
And when it comes to that, 2007, Vladimir Putin was here kind of saying, read my lips, we know what happened next. Do leaders, particularly leaders here at the Munich Security Conference, do they need to be more daring to stand up to Putin in Ukraine, to stand up to the President Xi's in Taiwan, to stand up to President Trump?
First of all, they have to have more imagination. You know, when these dictators usually tell you what they want to do, people just think this is too crazy, he can't mean it. And they do. And, as Poland, we have a clear conscience. We were telling our Western European colleagues that, look, Nord Stream is a bad idea and Putin is another Russian dictator. So let's prepare for that. Belatedly, I think most people get it.
Minister Sikorski, always a pleasure. Thank you for your time.
Pleasure. Bye.
And that's all for this interview here on TVP World. I'm Aaron Dahmen. Goodbye for now.